Something pretty big is happening in Dutch politics. A new government has just been sworn in, and it's led by a prime minister who is, well, completely record-breaking. So what's this all about, and what could it mean for the rest of Europe? Let's get into it.
Okay, so on February 24th, 2026, the Netherlands got its new prime minister. And get this, a huge part of the story is his age. He is just 38 years old.
That actually makes Rob Jetten the youngest person to ever hold that job in the country's entire history. I mean, that's pretty historic. But wait, that's not the only first we're talking about here.
He's also the nation's first openly gay leader, which is another huge milestone. So right out of the gate, you've got two major records being broken on day one.
So you've got to be asking, who exactly is Rob Jetten, and how on earth did he pull this off? His journey to the top is, well, it's fascinating and honestly, kind of unexpected.
Believe it or not, when Jetten first got elected to parliament back in 2017, he wasn't exactly Mr. Charisma. In fact, he earned this nickname Robot Jetten because a lot of people thought his answers in interviews sounded super stiff and, pre-rehearsed.
But here's where it gets really interesting. He basically reinvented himself. He started with that robot reputation and really worked to build a more relaxed, approachable image. And it worked. By 2022, he was popular enough to make it to the finals of a big TV quiz show. And then by 2024, he was really flexing his political muscle as a cabinet minister. And he proved he had substance, not just style. As a cabinet minister, he pushed for this massive climate law. We're talking 120 different measures, all designed to slash the country's carbon emissions. So he built this reputation for getting things done. And, on a more personal note, he's engaged to Nicholas Keenan, who's an Argentine field hockey star and a two-time Olympian. So, how did this journey lead him to victory? Well, you have to understand the political scene at the time. This was a snap election, which means it was called suddenly after the last government fell apart in just 11 months. So the stakes were incredibly high. And let me tell you, the battle lines were drawn in the sand. On one side, you had Jetten and his D66 party. They're centrist, pro-European Union, and pretty progressive. And on the other side, the far-right populist PVV party, led by the very well-known Geert Wilders. We're talking about two totally different paths for the future of the Netherlands. Leading up to the election, the polls were tight. But a lot of people thought that populist wave would just keep on rolling. But instead, Jetten managed to pull off a stunning upset. He came from behind and won by just the slimmest of margins. It was a massive, massive moment in Dutch politics. So, what was his secret? Well, after the win, Jetten basically laid out his theory. He said that this proved you can actually beat populist movements, not by fighting fire with fire, but by campaigning with a genuinely positive message for your country. Okay, so winning the election is one thing, but that was just the beginning. Now comes the really, really hard part, actually governing a country that's pretty deeply divided. And that's really the million-dollar question for his new government, isn't it? It's one thing to get a coalition together, but it is a whole other challenge to actually make it work day to day. And when you look at the numbers, you really see the problem. To have a majority in the 150-seat parliament, you need 76 seats. Jetten's coalition, they have 66. That 9-seat gap, that's a huge deal. So, his coalition is this mix of his own centrist D66 party, the center-right Christian Democrats, and the right-wing VVD. And here's the kicker. This group is a minority in both the lower house and the Senate. What that really means is, for pretty much any major law he wants to pass, he's going to have to go out and negotiate to win over parties from the opposition every single time. All right, so let's take a step back. Why should we care about all this political drama outside of the Netherlands? Because really, this is shaping up to be a major test for centrist politics everywhere in an age of polarization. Here's the bottom line. The Netherlands has basically turned into a giant political experiment. We're all about to watch and see if a centrist leader, armed with a positive message but a really fragile grip on power, can actually govern successfully in a country that's been pulled apart by a strong populist movement. And that brings us to the big, final question. Can a positive message, backed by a shaky coalition, really work in this era of deep political division? The success or failure of Rob Jetten's government could give us an answer that matters far beyond the Netherlands. It's going to be fascinating to watch, that's for sure.